Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So in this video we're going to be looking at the Helsmiths of Hashut. Basically Chaos Dwarfs for Age of Sigmar, the newest faction to be released, and I have my book and my box and my models and I'm going to be doing some content on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little chat about the book and about the army because they are on pre-order this weekend. So there might be some people been living under a rock who didn't know this. If you do like my content, make sure that you do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment and all that good stuff. So let's jump in and have a little look at the Helsmiths of Hashut. Yeah, so the Chaos Dwarfs are here in Age of Sigmar, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different style of video for the box and the miniatures, so that's going to be coming hopefully at this weekend, next week time. I'm still finishing everything off. It's kind of cool. It's a very different video. It's taken me quite a long time to make. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of it so far, but that'll be coming next week. But the box is pretty cool. You get basically a starter set in there, a start collecting spearhead box, and you get a really cool set of cards, which I'm going to be using to go through the rules, because these are really, really cool. I'm really liking the new format that GW have done for them. But who are the Chaos Dwarfs, the Helsmiths of Hashut? Who are they? Where have they been, and what impact are they going to have on the game? Well, first things first, they are basically dwarfs. They're Chaos Dwarfs. There has been a little bit of retconning in the lore in regards to the Chaos Dwarfs. There is some mention of the Time of Legends, or basically Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and there has been a little bit of a sort of retcon and change to how they've been created. Essentially, when the Age of Chaos hit the Mortal Realms, not all of the dwarfs ran away and hid in Azir with Sigmar and everyone else. Some of them decided to stay in their holds and ended up being overrun and swarmed and besieged by a lot of demons, and they essentially innovated and come up with cool new ways of killing demons, and in the process found this substance, this element, this after stuff after killing the demons, which they then realized they could use to strengthen their weapons and make cool stuff to ultimately fight the demons. And that kind of started a chain reaction of them kind of learning new techniques of killing demons, building new weapons, and ultimately learning and working out how to summon demons so they can kill them and imprison them and farm them. And eventually Archaon kind of turned up and basically went, "You really cool, we kind of want your weapons," and they then became the sort of weaponsmiths trading block of the Chaos Pantheon and supplied them with armor and weapons and things like that. It's kind of cool to note that a lot of the Varangard armor that the Varangard for Archaon units wear, the big guys on the horses, a lot of their armour is made by the Chaos Dwarfs, which is kind of a cool little nod. There is a big rivalry between the Helsmiths of Hashut and Skaven. They kind of both don't like each other, they kind of both do the same thing, and they really are not best pleased with each other, which is kind of cool. On the tabletop, they have a couple of interesting rules, and as a faction that's just been released to the game, they've got a good selection of units. Now, I'm pretty impressed with the run out. Now, buying a new army that is generally a new faction to a game by Games Workshop can be quite a daunting thing, because sometimes you don't get a complete army straight out of the gate. Looking at the Cathay for Warhammer the Old World, the Emperor's Children for 40k are two good examples of this. Both armies are clearly missing elements of their army, and it's only when they're going to get that, then it could be quite a long wait before they do. The Helsmiths of Hashut, on the other hand, have come out pretty good. They've got 3 infantry units. They have 2 ranged units. They have a war machine, which is got also a dual unit. They can either be rockets or cannon. They've got essentially 2 units of cavalry. Kind of think like eels for the Deepkin. You've got like offensive and defensive versions of the same unit. They are a dual kit, and they have an assortment of heroes. So they've got about 3 heroes on foot a mounted hero, and then a big special character hero. So they kind of have everything that they need straight away. And I can imagine over the coming years, as the faction grows, that they will get new heroes. I can very much see a Bull Centaur hero, maybe some Hobgrot heroes on some Hobgrot units, and maybe some form of like elemental demonic infused war machines, sort of infantry, more war machines, more range units, that kind of stuff, because they've kind of got all of the building blocks straight away in the army, and which is kind of cool. So I do think the meta wise is probably going to be skewed into the Bull Centaurs, and we're going to go through the battle traits and everything else in a second, and we'll have a little look at that. But yeah, I do think the meta is probably going to go into the sort of cavalry build that you can do with the army rather than the war machines and the infantry. But I do think there are certain few elements of the army that you're going to want regardless of how you build into it, because of the way the army rule works. So what I'll do is we'll use the cards rather than me try to take photos and edit and everything else. I'll literally just use the cards, use the other camera, and we'll have a little look at the battle traits and things like that, and look at some of the other units as well. And we're going to get a good look at these cards, because these cards are really good. I really do like the new format that they've done. So I'm going to go and flip the camera now, and then we'll get that done. Okay, so these cards are really, really good. Now, in the set, and hopefully these are going to be the ones that you get on sale, you basically get a lot of double-sided cards. And what's really, really cool with them is you also get the unit cards are the same size. So these are literally the card. Like, they're really tiny. And you get all the information that you need on there, which is really, really good. I really am pretty impressed with the format. So their army rule is this. It's the harness of the demonic power. So you must use this ability at the start of each of your turn, remove all demonic power points from each friendly unit, and then gain 1 demonic power point for each friendly desolation token on the battlefield. Now, desolation tokens are the new mechanic for the army, and essentially what you do is you get a desolation point if you have it on a piece of terrain, and I'm going to go through that in a second. So once you've taken all of your tokens off, you're then going to redistribute them from the pool of desolation tokens that you have, and then all demonic points you can then allocate the points to non-Hobgot Helsmith units. So the Hobgot unit isn't able to get any, but they can generate them for you. Each unit has a maximum of 3 demonic points, and then all unallocated demonic points are lost. Alright, so you're basically going to be using this rule here, leave the land in ruin, and this is essentially how you're going to farm and generate this. So you pick a terrain feature or objective that does not have a friendly desolation token, and it is contested by a friendly Helsmiths of Hashut unit that is not in combat to be the target. Give the target a desolation token. Now, I would sort of go into it that if you do it to a terrain, you can't really, other armies normally can't sort of interact with terrain unless they have a rule to allow them to do so. So what I would imagine is, if you are doing this on terrain features, that they're not going to be able to be removed. But if you do it onto an objective and you lose that objective, then you're going to lose that desolation token. So you're going to have to come back and redo it. So there are going to be certain units that are going to be quite good. Now, this is your little command point ability that you get to do. And basically, it just allows you to throw demonic power points into a unit for 1 CP, depending on how many they've got. So if they've got less than 3, you can give them 2 demonic power points. If they've got 3 or more, you can give them 1 demonic power point. And this ties into the units. So the non-Hobgrot units have abilities to be able to use these points, which is kind of cool. Now, they also do have the battle formations, and the battle formations are as follows. So you've got 4 as usual. Pretty much every army has them. So you've got the mass legions. So this is a passive ability. So each time a friendly Helsmiths of Hashut infantry unit with 3 demonic power points uses a rally command, you can make 3 additional rolls rather than d6. So this is cool. So you're basically going to be rolling additional dice, which is kind of nice for your rally, which means that you're potentially going to get more models back. You've got the Castigator Battalion battery, which is if you want to sort of build into your war machines. So you add 1 to the attack characteristic of ranged weapons used by friendly Helsmiths of Hashut war machines, while they have 3 demonic points. So that's really cool if you want to really lean into that sort of big artillery gun line at the back of the board. I don't think that's going to be the one that people mainly use. I think this is the one that people are going to mainly use. So the Bulls of Ziggurat, add 2 to the movement characteristic of friendly Helsmith of Hashut cavalry on monster units while they have 3 demonic power. Basically means that your bull centaurs are going to be moving 12 inches, which is quite good. And then you've got the Demon Smith Carbal, which is add 1 to the casting rolls, unbinding rolls, banishing rolls, and chanting rolls for friendly wizards and priests if they have 3. So if you really want to go priest and magic heavy, that is also a really good one. Now, out of the 4, I can see this one being used if you're going to go infantry heavy and you really want to get this sort of the rally and lean into that. But personally, it's probably going to be these 2. The Bulls is the one that I think is going to be meta, and this one I think is also going to be quite useful. But either way, it's going to be one of these 2. Now, they do have some hero traits. So the Tyrants Overseers are going to have some hero traits. So they have Servile Automaton, this is kind of cool. So basically, you pick a friendly Helsmith of Hashut automaton, and this is, if you've not seen it, is the really big sort of mechanical bull thing that they have. Not the one that's been ridden, the one with either the guns for hands or the big maces. It's the one or the other. And basically, you make it a bodyguard. And while this unit is in combat and its bodyguard is within its combat range, the bodyguard has the strike first ability, and if this unit is infantry and it has a 5-up ward, while its bodyguard is within range. So you can add this to your despot and basically have a bodyguard walking around with it, which is really kind of cool. I quite like that. Now, this next one is Fire Your Worms. Pick a friendly Helsmith or Hashut infantry unit that is not in combat and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the effect. The target can immediately use the shoot ability as if it were your shooting phase. All attacks must attack the enemy unit, which is kind of cool. It's kind of giving you a free Overwatch, essentially. And you do have some pretty potent shooting units in this army, so that could be one to look out for. Then you have an eye for weakness in your hero phase. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Helsmith Hashut units that target that enemy unit, which is kind of cool. Now, you've got some Arcanes of Power. So these are the Dark Gifts of Hashut. So you've got a Scroll of Petrification. So you can pick a friendly Helsmiths of Hashut unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. And then the effect. For the rest of the turn, the target has a 2-up ward save. Like, that is amazing. But it's only once per battle, which is really, really good. But you get a 2-up ward save. That is just baller. Then the target cannot use any non-passive abilities or be picked to be the target of a friendly abilities. Enemy units can ignore the target for the purpose of movement, charging, or setting up on the battlefield. So basically, you can't be killed, you can't use any abilities, and enemy units ignore you as a target. So you can't really be targeted, but you get a 2-up ward ruled, which is kind of cool. Then you've got the Crucible of Spite, so give up to 3 demonic power points to this unit. However, you cannot allocate or give any more demonic power points to this unit for the rest of the battle. So they're only ever going to get 3. It's once per battle. I would probably say that if you want to use this in the last part of the battle, or the last sort of turn, you can sort of funnel your demonic power points into another unit and then fire this into that hero. But it's not too bad. Then they've got the Gauntlets of Punishment, so pick a friendly unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict equal amounts of mortal wound damage, which is not bad. Now, they do have a spell law and a prayer law, so you've got 3 spells. Relatively decent casting, 6, 7, and 8. So your first spell is Hateful Fractures, so you pick a friendly Helsmith Hashut wizard, 18-inch range, casts on a 2d6, needing a 6 or more. half the target's movement characteristic until the start of your next turn. Alright, so you basically pick an enemy unit within 12 and then half their movement, which is quite good. Then you've got the Ashen Smog, so you pick a friendly wizard, 18-inch range of them, and has a Desolation token to be the target, them making a casting roll. So you pick a terrain feature within 18 inches of them that has a Desolation token. So you're going to have that. This is going to be a good spell to have. You roll 2d6 and even a 7 or more. That terrain feature has the Obscuring ability, terrain 1.2 rule. Until the start of your next turn, then roll a d3 for each enemy units contesting that target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of damage equal to the roll on that unit. Now, this doesn't say mortal wound damage, but it does follow the same rule and mechanic that the mortal wound damage is. So I'm wondering if this is just normal standard damage or if it is going to be mortal wound damage. Then Molten Metal, so you pick a wizard, 18-inch range, pick an enemy unit, roll 2d6, roll a number of dice equal to the unmodified casting roll, and inflict 1 mortal wound. This I really like because it's, if you roll really high on your, so if you roll a 10, 11 or 12, you're going to be inflicting that much mortal wound damage on the target each roll that equals or succeeds the target's save characteristic. So that's kind of cool, especially if you're looking at like units with a 2-up armor save. So basically you roll a number of dice equal to the unmodified casting roll. So if you roll a 12 on your casting roll, you roll 12 dice, and then for every roll that equals or exceeds the target's save characteristic, you apply a mortal wound damage, which is really, really good. So if you look at something like a Stormcast Eternal Annihilator with a 2-up armor save, you can pump in potentially 10, 11, 12, whatever dice you have into that unit, and then every 2+ is going to do a mortal wound damage to it, which is really good. I like this one. This one's probably going to be used quite a bit. The movement one is potentially got play, but these two are the spells that you're probably going to be going for. Now your prayer law is you've got the Black Flames of Hashut, so you pick a friendly priest, they do a chanting roll, you roll a d6, and then you need basically 4 ritual points to cast it. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target, and for each 5+, inflict a mortal wound on the target. If the chanting roll was 8 or more, inflict 1 mortal wound damage for a 4+. Not bad, but it's 5+ or 4+, so that's going to be quite hard to pull off. Then your hero phase, again needing 4s. It's got a 12-inch range. You add 1 to the rend characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. If the chanting roll is 8 or more, that unit's melee weapons have crit mortals for the rest of the turn, which is pretty decent. I quite like that one. Getting crit mortals on there is quite good. And then the Storm of the Obsidian Shards is, again, cast basically chanting on a 5, roll a d6, inflict d3 mortal damage on the target, and subtract 3 or more from the target's control score. If it was 10 or more, you can pick another eligible unit as a secondary target, which is pretty decent. Now, one of the units that I will say is probably going to be quite sort of key, not key, but I would imagine that you're going to see quite a lot of on the battlefield, is going to be these guys here. Let me just get the card, and I think it's going to be these guys, the Hobgrots. Now, the reason why I think these guys are going to be quite important, and we're going to go through the points in a second because the points are up on the website, is they have a 5-inch move, a 5-up save, 1 health and 1 control score. They've got shit attacks, but it's their ability. So they've got a deployment phase ability. So in the deployment phase, this unit can immediately use a normal move ability as if it were your normal movement phase. Now it just says in the deployment phase, so you could do that at the end of the deployment phase. But they're basically going to be able to deploy and then run forward or run where you need them. So if there is a terrain feature just outside your deployment zone, they can deploy on the line and then run onto that deployment feature, which they're then going to be able to, at the start of the turn, be able to then desecrate and give you a desecration token. So I think they're going to be quite good. The cohort are pretty decent, and these are the ones that I'm mainly going to be running myself. And then you've got the rules on the back. This is why I really like these cards, because you've got the rules and everything on the front, and then you look on the back and you actually have the rules there. The Bull Centaurs is why I think these guys are going to be really key, and kind of the meta is they've got a 4-up save, 4 wounds each. They move 10. Their attacks is they got charge, they get +1 damage and crit mortals on the charge. They've got 4 attacks each, 3s and 3s, 1 rend 2 damage, and then crushing unworthy. So add 1 to the charge rules for this unit for each demonic power point it has. So add 1 to the charge rule, which is really good. And then bull charge. If this unit charge, pick a visible enemy unit within 1 inch. Roll a dice for each model in the unit. Add 1. Add the number of demonic power points this unit has to the roll. For every 6+, inflict 1 mortal wound damage on the target. So yeah, this is why I think these guys are going to be the key. Now you do have the other ones, the anointed, but these are more defensive, so they're like anti-cavalry and charge. And then add 1 to the charge rules for the same, and then this effect has the strike first for the rest of the turn, which is kind of cool. But they only get that when they're charged. All right, but yeah, so I think they kind of sort of blends it way out. You've either got a sort of attacking unit, or you've got more of a defensive unit. The army's points are up on the website now to be downloaded, which is pretty cool because it's kind of nice that they don't get put in the book anymore. And kind of 40k should be doing the same thing. So basically, points wise, the Ashen Elder, he's basically the priest. He's 120 points, and he can basically be in any army. Your Demon Smith, which is basically your wizard, he's 110 points. The Demon Smith on Infernal Tartarus, that's the Demon Smith on the Big Brass Bull. The non-character version, the non-named version, he's 320 points. Pretty cheap. And then Uraktar, the first Demon Smith, he's 350 points. Pretty decent. And then your War Despot, this is the guy that comes in your Spearhead and was also in the launch box. He's 90 points. And this hero can join an eligible regiment of Hellshoot Commander, which is one of the other things. Now, you've got your units, you've got your Anointed Sentinels, your Bull Centaurs, which are basically your Centaur units, your cavalry units. They're 160 points for your defensive ones. Your Bull Centaurs are 190 points for 3. So obviously you can reinforce that up to have a unit of 6. Not bad. Pretty good. Your Rocket Battery is 140 points. I'm not a big fan of the Rocket Battery. I prefer the Demonic Engine with the Bane, with the Mortar, which is the Dominator Engine. Where is it? The Rocket Battery. Why do they not just put them side by side? Okay, that's a bit of a mistake there, GW. The Dominator Engine with the Death Strike Rocket Battery doesn't have points. It doesn't have points. Right, okay. So I'm probably going to say it's probably going to be around about 140 points. The Dominator, which is the big brass bull with the cannons and maces. If you want to go with the maces, 170 points. If you want to take the cannons, it's 190 points. And they are classed as war machines, which is interesting. Your Hobgrots, which are your cheaper units, are only 70 points a unit. I'm definitely going to plan to have at least 2 units of 10 of these guys for 70 points, just to run onto objectives, run onto a terrain and get the desolation tokens. And then if they die, they die. I don't really care. They're 70 points. They're shit. Who cares? My Infernal cohort with spears are 110 points. If you want them with a sword and board, 100 points. Then the Infernal Razors with the blunderbusses, which I really like, which is 110 points. They're dirt cheap for 5. And then you can have flamethrowers for 100 points if you really want. And then the Tormented Bombard. There you go. The Tormented Bombard, which is the one with the gun, is 130 points. So, which is quite nice. Then you've got your battle formations, all of your little hero traits and everything else. No points cost to any of that. And then you have your Chaos Regiment. So your Cursed Steed Battery is 340 points. And then the Seeker of the Dread Dirge is 260 points. And these are the regiments of renown that they are able to be used in the other factions. So you can take some Chaos Dwarfs in your Blades of Khorne, your Disciples of Tzeentch, your Maggotkin of Nurgle, Hedonites of Slesh, your Skaven, and your Slaves to Darkness, which is cool. So your Cursed Steel Battalion battery is 1 Demon Smith, Tormented Bombard, and a Shrieker Rocket battery for 340 points. And then your Seeker of the Dread Dirge is an Ashen Elder, a Dominator Engine with Bane Maces, 260 points, which is pretty decent. So that is the Helsmiths of Hashut. Now, I'm pretty excited with it. They are up on pre-order this weekend, like I said earlier in the video. They are pretty cool. They are the new kids on the block, but I do think they have all of the building blocks there to have a relatively decent army coming out the bat. Some people are saying they're quite cheap. I would imagine in a couple of months' time, at the the next FAQ balance update, the points will probably go up potentially. Summer units, the Bull Centaurs, I can see those guys going up to 200 points a unit. Depending on how the meta moves, I can see that sort of changing quite a lot. These things are brilliant. So the new format for the cards that they're doing in the game is really, really good. I quite like that. Hopefully they'll do something similar with 40k and make them small like this and make them cool. But the army is, in all, I'm pretty impressed. I have a video coming. It's going to be a very cool video, very different. And it's going to be basically looking at what I'm working on with the Helsmiths of Hashut. And then I will be expanding the army and working up that. It is 10 years for Age of Sigmar. I haven't really touched Age of Sigmar for a while, and I kind of feel as though I should get back to it, being that it was my main game for a very, very long time, and I kind of do miss it. It is a fun system. 4th edition is very good. It does have its issues, do not get me wrong, but it is still a fun, solid system. So, yeah. Want to get back playing it, and I'm going to be jumping in. The reason why I've gone into the dwarfs, the Chaos Dwarfs, is I'm a big dwarf fan. I quite like my dwarfs, and I've been wanting a proper dwarfy faction in Age of Sigmar for a while. Don't get me wrong, the Fire Slayers and the Karajon Overlords are really cool and very dwarfy, but the model ranges are not great. I don't really like the ranges. The Karajon Overlords are cool. But the models are not to my taste. I'm not a big fan of them. And the Fire Slayers, as much as I love a Slayer army, the models for me are dated. I would like to see them updated and given a refresh, because they're pretty, like, arms sticking out. Like, they're really... Some of them are lackluster. And there isn't that much choice outside of the heroes. And they definitely need more units. And not more heroes. So hopefully when they get the Battletome later on in this edition, which I believe they are up as part of the next 4 that was shown, they'll get some decent amount of love, because they do need it. But as for the Chaos Dwarfs, pretty impressed with them. Probably going to be going into building an all-rounder army. Come a war machine, some of the big brass bulls, Bull Centaurs, some infantry, a couple of amalgamated heroes, and then once I've had a couple of games, I'll then start building into more of a meta list. And I do think the sort of meta, the tournaments are going to sort of start seeing a lot of Bull Centaurs, the big Demon Smiths on the big brass balls, and probably some Hobgrots to capture some terrain and get some Desolation tokens. And I can imagine that that's going to be the sort of go-to army, very much how a lot of the cavalry armies are pretty much doing really well, quite well, looking at you, Soulblight Gravelord. But yeah, I can see that being the one. But we'll see how it goes, and as I get playing, we will get going. One of the really cool things, if you are interested in getting into the faction and have the opportunity of getting the launch box, I highly recommend grabbing one, because that launch box is actually a spearhead box, and you do get the spearhead rules in here as well, which is really cool. It's I hope these launch boxes that they do for the factions from now on, they do tie them into being a spearhead box, because it's kind of cool. It means that you're able to build and play the game straight away without really having to sort of like work out your points and having to play a normal small pointed game of Age of Sigmar, where you can just play spearhead instead, which is a really good idea, and I hope they do more of that, which is one of the things I did notice about the box. But yeah, if you are wanting to get into the faction, highly recommend grabbing that box and jumping into it. But that's the video. I hope you like the content and you enjoyed it. If you do, please like, share, and all that good stuff. But make sure you do subscribe. Once I hit 5,000 subscribers, I am going to be doing a giveaway on the channel. To one lucky subscriber will get a big box of models. But yeah, you need to be in it to win it. So make sure you do subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Let me know in the comments below if you are jumping into Chaos Dwarfs. Catch you later.